minimum wage, basically an exploitation of child labor, and so much oil that America would have been creaming themselves. I just described to you single-handedly the best form of employment I've ever had the pleasure of working, all when I was at the young, ripe age of 15. Fast food. More specifically, I worked long, hard hours diligently under the colonel's command. If you're a teenager thinking of getting the first taste of a job, I can wholeheartedly endorse working in fast food. If you're stupid and greedy like me, working a minimum wage job can be a great way to learn life skills and be able to fund your League of Legends addiction. You're pretty much lumped in there, and in about 2 weeks, you're numbed with the thrill of grueling work and dickhead customers, all for a measly paycheck that you blow immediately. I doubt any of you will have to go through whatever I did to get hired, because now it does seem really unconventional. No, don't worry, I didn't blow the manager or anything like that. I'll explain. My friend who worked there for about 3 months recommended I join her in taking action against the healthy. I eagerly accepted and whipped up my crappy resume. Little secret, I completely copied my older brother's because he also recently got hired, and I thought, maybe I can replicate his success. So I took one look at his resume and replaced anything that was related to him, like his school or his name, and just put my info. Simple as pie, the integrity is real. However, dropping off my resume was single-handedly the scariest experience I ever felt in my life. I strutted up to the front and shakily handed my resume to the lady who actually turned out to be the manager. And I don't know if this is how most hiring processes work, but she conducted the interview right there and then. And of course I'm like, what the fuck, I haven't planned for this. I still needed to work on a foolproof script. But I guess she thought no time like the present, because there I was, dazed like I just had Jake Paul punch me in the larynx. I was a fish out of water. The interview took about 5 minutes, and I don't think I took a single breath. I still had a confident tone, but if she could see what my knees were doing from where she was standing, I doubt she would have been confident in my ability to work there. A few weeks went by, and I thought I didn't get the job, but then in the middle of a school assembly, I received a call back saying she wanted to do another interview. You know how embarrassing it is to have your Nokia ringtone go off in front of everybody in your whole school? Anywho, this interview was probably a lot worse than the first one. She asked me, why do you want to work here? And you know what my dumbass said? The money would be nice. And 10 minutes later, I've landed myself my first part-time job. It felt rushed and unprofessional, but then again, I remembered I don't care because a job is a job. I picked up the work pretty fast too. I'm saying this now because before I quit, I trained like at least a dozen people my age, and to this day, I can wholeheartedly say that a good few of them are not qualified to hold down a job whatsoever. Like, I had a month to train this one guy who we'll call Grimace because he was built like him. I swear this guy was on the verge of getting fired every week. The same mistakes over and over, like overcharging on the sides or handing out the completely wrong order because he didn't read the receipt. And the moment I knew this guy was cooked when he had to go out into the real world was when I was throwing out the trash during pre-closing and he was on his break playing chess on his phone. My guy was 160 ELO. For reference, I suck at chess. I have 1000 ELO after like 4 years of playing, but 160 is like if you gave the phone to a toddler. I felt so bad for my coworkers that had to deal with him after I left because my friend who I mentioned previously was basically helicopter monitoring him for months after I left so he wouldn't fuck up. Would I say I hard carried? Yes, 100% yes. It's not a massive accomplishment, I know, but when you're on that unlucky day where you and the shift manager are the only ones who know what to do, it's so fucking frustrating. Like within 3 months of working there, I had memorized the menu down to the layout of the machine. That comes in super handy when you're in a dinner rush and the rookie working the drive-thru can't remember the order, so you gotta guide them through the headset while you're also doing a million other things. I would say people liked me as a coworker though. I wasn't charismatic right off the bat, but all the nice Filipino ladies thought I was good looking, and I was taller than them, so that was nice. It was my ability though to just non-stop talk for my whole shift, which is what brought life to the franchise. Any spare time I had would be yapping about my failing love life or reciting my whole life story. Like if you're ever bored, just talk about yourself. It may seem obnoxious, but was I there to socialize? Yes I was. You gotta understand that doing a shift of actual real life work is fucking draining. Hell, even when we were busy, I was still talking about myself because I'm pretty sure it kept me sane. Also, despite it being a food place, I felt like shit working there. It was mostly grease and oil building up as the shift went on, especially during closing when you have to clean the deep frying machines. The residue of deep fried food is actually revolting, but everyone gets used to it. I actually burnt myself on one of them, all part of the working day, I guess. But that sweet paycheck was my reason to keep living. I still remember my first ever paycheck, $490.87. And for the next 2 weeks, for about 8 months, I was making anywhere between $400 to $600 per payday. If there's anything that teenagers want more than to die, it's the prospect of money. Because there's little to no living expenses we have to pay, the couple $100s that are deposited into the bank are free to be spent in any way possible. We also fail to realize that our employers probably don't give a shit about our well-being. For myself, most of the money went right into food. It never seemed like a lot, but by the time I was unemployed, I began to sorely regret eating out as much as I did. You see, when my ex broke my heart, I used food to numb the pain away. It got so bad that I can still remember the heartbreak meal I got from McDonald's every week for like 3 months straight. 2 double Big Macs, 2 large fries, 1 vanilla shake, and 20 nuggets. Those were dark times. I would spend the rest of it on the most useless shit that I don't even use. The amount of money I've paid Riot Games is actually insane. Unless I get famous on YouTube, please don't take money saving tips from me. Especially after the breakup, I went on such an unhinged spending spree. Always random items every week from the internet to compensate for my lack of frugality. Temu was low-key my best friend. But that life of luxury wouldn't have been possible without the long, grueling hours of KFC. At the start, I was only working 15 to 20 hours a week, but the latter months were crazy. You know what else is crazy? Sure, I was making up to $1,200 bi-weekly at that point, but is working nearly 40 hours a week plus balancing school and rizzing up the fine shites worth it? To say the least, my mental health tanked. The thing is, it felt like the only thing I was good at was my job, so I stayed a little bit longer. It was actually pretty rough when everything started piling up, like my breakup and doing poorly in school, but I was still smiling all the way through because girls like me don't cry. I remember seeing the schedules week by week and just seeing the hours pile up. To say the least, it killed my grades and likely my chances of getting into a prestigious university, and with that, my parents' disappointment in me also grew. Actually pretty sure it's a crime to be shifting a kid that much, but at least I knew how to pack an 18-piece bucket with 5 large sides. I bet you wouldn't know the difference between all the pieces of chicken unless you've lived and breathed it. I would come home all proud, dirty, and tired, ready to repeat it all the next day.